Welcome to the Playbook presented by the Leaders Lab. I'm Ken Eslick, and if you're a leader or founder who wants to hire top talent, scale your business, and sell for more, you're in the right place. Each week, Onika Kwatsha and I bring you practical, actionable advice that you can put to work immediately to make an impact in your business today. And now, here's this week's episode. Hi, welcome back to the Playbook. I'm your host, Ken Eslick, here once again with Onika Kwatsha. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between leadership versus management. A lot of people use those words interchangeably, but they're actually very different skill sets. Interestingly, many of the people who are exceptional managers never become exceptional leaders, not because they lack talent, but because they're spending their time on the wrong activities. And today, we're going to explore the difference and hopefully give everyone a simple way to evaluate how you're spending your own time and essentially audit what you're doing so that you can lean into the activities that are going to make the biggest impact for you. So hi, Onika, how you doing?
Hey, Ken, I'm great, thanks. Super excited to be diving into this topic. Got a couple of questions for you. So if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and shoot.
Let's do it.
So we're talking about this concept of leadership and management, and we hear this all the time, especially if you're working in kind of a corporate world and in the corporate space. But what is the actual difference between these two?
Neither is better. They're just different. What I would say is management has a lot to do with operations and leadership has a lot to do with vision, if you wanted to just kind of break it down that way. And every organization needs both. But management has a lot to do with execution, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, whereas leadership has a lot to do about painting the vision for the future, forward looking, motivation, things like that. And the idea is that we all have both of those things, hopefully, in us. And where are we spending our time? If we spend too much time managing the details, then we're not doing anything to inspire our customers, our people. We're not really forward looking. We're becoming way too administrative. And if we're all leadership, then a lot of times it's a lot of talky talk and not a lot of action, right? And people get a little bored of that too. But I think where I really try to spend my time and where I think leaders should spend their time is on leadership activities, or they should weigh their time a little more towards leadership activities, meaning not 100% of your time is going to be spent there, but then more time you spend there while still doing what you need to do from a management perspective, then you're going to be light years ahead with that combination of those two things.
That's really interesting. So what I'm getting is that you should be a combination of both, but how do you determine the balance, right? How do you determine as a leader or manager or person in an influential position when to lean on one more than the other?
I think you can feel when you're getting behind administratively, right? Like you can feel it, you just know. I also think a lot of the things administratively, and so when I say administratively, a lot of that is management. A lot of that can be delegated, right? So I think one of the biggest, but you can't delegate leadership. Like I can't delegate vision to someone else, but I can delegate even to a certain extent, like writing performance reviews, right? Not that someone's going to write everything that's on my mind or that I'm just going to let that run without my influence, because delivering the performance review is absolutely a leadership activity. But if the records were all up to date, I could ask my assistant to say, look, do me a favor. I'll do the whole narrative on the performance reviews. But if you could go in and populate all the performance metrics, right? We have 10 KPIs that we're measuring. You know what all of those are. You know where everyone stands. You know where to get those reports. I don't have to do that. Someone else can do that, right? And that's where I really look at it and go, do I need to be spending my time on that particular management activity? Or can I lean into leadership so I can spend more time delivering the actual message of that performance review?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And since you brought up the topic of performance reviews, I thought we'd play a quick game where we look at different responsibilities that someone would have on a day-to-day and decide which side they fall into, in your personal opinion, in terms of leadership or management activities. And the first I have for you is running payroll. What is your take on that one, Ken?
Running payroll, definitely a management thing and not one that always has to be handled by the boss. Sometimes it does if there's commissions or things like that need a certain level of approval. But normally even if it does require leadership approval, 80, 90% of the prep work for that can be done before it gets to you. So
Okay.
management, generally management. Yeah.
And then we'll stay in that same kind of space and look at creating the company's compensation philosophy, for example.
So creating it, I think, becomes much more of a leadership thing because you're looking at what inspires people. It's interesting. Creating it might be in kind of a mid spot between management and leadership, but delivering it, me coming to the team and saying, here's your new sales commission plan, that is definitely leadership. Right.
Yeah.
And because delivering it is leadership, then I think creating it is too, because you're really thinking about what's going to inspire people to hit their KPIs, to get to the next level, that kind of thing. And that is definitely leadership thinking.
Gotcha, Ken. And I think this is a very important one, but hiring, where do you feel like that falls?
Ultimately, it's leadership, but there's so many things in the process of it that are management. Like at the end of the day, the number one thing you can do as a leader is effectively hire people. There's nothing you're going to do that's more impactful than that. But are there steps along the way, like managing the ATS, candidate flow, stuff like that? I really do feel like the best leaders I've ever worked with own their recruitment process. They own it. By owning it doesn't mean they manage every detail. What it means is they helped orchestrate it. They've got checks and balances to make sure candidates aren't getting left behind or sitting in a queue too long or waiting a week or two in between their interviews, right? So they've got checks and balances in there. It's not like they forget it and just give it to someone else, but they built a system so that the management is happening, that there's checks and balances, and that they are intimately involved so that they're helping push people over the line, which ultimately is a leadership activity. So yeah, a bit of a mix of both. I think what happens, and the reason it's good to ask ourselves, like, what are the activities on my calendars? Our brains are hardwired to take it easy, believe it or not. We are geared for pleasure, not for pain. And some of the leadership stuff can be tough, right? It can be having that difficult conversation with somebody. It can be, I've got to roll out this whole new pay plan and I don't know how everybody's going to take it. And so what our brain tends to do is go, I have other stuff I need to do today than that thing, right? The other stuff I need to do is really get through those expense reports that are on my desk. I need to prep tomorrow's payroll. Now, these all become like management things that I can just do behind the scenes because I'm hiding from the thing that I really should be doing. And so I think part of this is just about being honest with ourselves and looking at how we're spending our time. And did that need to be done? And did that need to be done by me? And could I have spent my time on something else that would have been more impactful to the business and the team? That's all. Again, there's going to be a certain percentage of management things on our schedule every day, and that's fine. I think what we need to do is be honest and go, did that need to be done today? To have to be done by me? Could it have been delegated out to someone else?
Yeah. And you brought up like looking at your calendar, Ken. And when I look at my calendar, what should I be seeing in terms of that split? Let's say, for example, I know we internally use color coding. What should that split of that color coding look like on any particular day?
Boy, that's a good one. I think what I used to try to do when I was in corporate, where there was I think owning a company, the lines get a little more blurred because so many things. I think in corporate America, there were people to do different things, right? Everything. And I would have Mondays and Fridays, typically at least a portion of those days in the office. And by virtue of they are in the office, meaning I am not face to face with my customers or with my direct reports, there's a good chance those are going to be management heavy days, right? But when I'm in the field now, because I can get my admin done on maybe a Monday and a Friday, I can dedicate maybe 90% of my time when I'm in the field to leadership type activities. So when I'm visiting a location, why do I want to go sit in a room for 2 hours and do paperwork? That makes no sense, right? If I'm visiting a location, I should be meeting face to face with our employees. I should be going and talking to customers. I should be meeting and maybe helping to train our leadership staff on new things or new initiatives within the company. And so literally that stuff should be almost back to back leadership oriented. But again, I don't think the definition of a good day or a bad day is, did I spend more time on leadership or more time on management? It's, was I honest about my time, and was I spending time on the things that actually needed to be done? If I'm behind on my admin because all I've been doing is running around talking to people, doing stuff, which is great, then maybe the best thing I can do tomorrow is to have a 100% management day and just get everything
Yeah.
off my plate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely can.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
You know, most leaders don't build organizations, they build cages, and you can't grow if everything depends on you. Whether you're a founder scaling your company or a corporate leader running a high performance team, growth starts with people. And that's why the first pillar at the Leaders Lab is building the right team. Before you scale, before you sell, before any big initiative, you need the right leaders around you. Our team has placed over 1,000 executives into Fortune 500 and fast-growing startups and supported over 75 acquisitions along the way, helping leaders create over $1 billion in enterprise value. At the Leaders Lab, we help you hire top talent, scale with confidence, and build a business or team that can thrive without you. Take the free Scale Up scorecard at theleaderslab.co or email me directly, ken@theleaderslab.co, to find out how ready your organization really is for growth. And now, back to the playbook.
It almost also opens this opportunity that you should probably have some blank space. And I know I've seen you do this on your calendar where it's just like brainstorming, it's open, because if you're constantly full of appointments, where's the space to handle the leadership aspect of things, right? And why do you do that?
That's a good point. And I actually think even though you're doing it by yourself, I think brainstorming in and of itself is a leadership activity. It's proactive. It revolves around vision. So you're actually calling a timeout to say, wait, I need to tap into my leadership side instead of just filling this time with every little appointment or task that's going to come up and fill it, to your point. Because when we're unintentional with our calendars will get filled with administrative stuff. They will get filled with management stuff. It just happens. It's the same reason people say, if you're going to take a vacation, you got to plan for it. If you're going to be proactive with your leadership, you've got to plan for it. You've got to guard it. You've got to protect it. You've got to say, hey, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2 to 3, that's my thinking hour. And that's where I'm going to dive into forward-looking things for the company, maybe AI research, maybe whatever that is. And it's fun to actually engage that part of your brain in an active way. And it's good for the business.
Yeah, it's really cool how, like, if you have to be really intentional about it, is kind of what I'm getting from this.
Yeah.
You have to be disciplined about being intentional about that time on your calendar. And Ken, from your perspective, when moving through or between jobs, let's say you're moving from a supervisor to a CEO, how does this balance evolve?
At a supervisor level, it's really interesting because I think supervisor, especially like first level of leadership, where you're a lot of times still have one foot in your day job, or you're very active, like in the field, doing the work, sometimes of the folks around you. So it's a little tougher sometimes then to create as much leadership time. But as you move up, I think it's very similar as you move up. We're going to do another episode on like the difference between a GM and a CEO as an example, because if you look at what a GM really is by job description, they're a mini CEO. It's the same thing. You have stakeholders, you have profit, you have loss, you have sales, you have KPIs, you have employees, you have key initiatives, you have community, you have rules and regulations, you have taxes. And so what makes one person at the pinnacle of their career is that they're going to run one location and another one that they could run several $1 billion in revenue. And what is that difference? A lot of times, obviously, there's a skill set at each level, but a lot of it is just how are they prioritizing their time and what are they working on? I can guarantee you, people rising to the highest parts of the food chain within an organization, it's not because they leveraged how much time they're spending on management. They're not leaning into that. They become master delegators. They start becoming really good at saying no in a nice way, But just like this doesn't, and in fact, a lot of times as leaders, when we're doing work that we shouldn't be doing, we're actually taking that work away from somebody else that could be learning, and it's part of their growth. So not only are we not making the best use of our time, a lot of times we're stunting the growth of somebody else.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned time management and delegation, because those are the two main things I got from you in this conversation. And like almost this concept of the higher you move, the less problems you should be personally solving. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think certainly when it comes to tedious problems, yes, you need to be working on bigger stuff. You need to be working on leadership and vision. You need to trust the people below you. But again, think about me now being a GM, it's like, if I'm a GM, I need to trust the people below me. I need to be working on the forward vision for our location. If I'm doing those things really well, delegating well, hiring well, those people want to step up and take more responsibility. By default, that means I don't have to do the day-to-day stuff as much. And I shouldn't be doing the day-to-day stuff as much, which leaves me with nothing to do other than be proactive in my leadership. These guys are running the day-to-day. Maybe I'll focus on making a new acquisition. Maybe I'll focus on a new initiative for how we can improve our CSI scores or net promoter scores, or buy another company and bring them in here, whatever it might be, right? And we become victims of our own success in that. And as long as we're willing to try new things, then the degree that we're successful at hiring people, handing things to them, gives us the freedom to learn more. Our freedom in learning more is going to make the operation do better. It's going to make us more well-rounded as executives. We'll climb to the next level, and so will the people below us. They'll backfill us, and it keeps going.
Yeah, I really like this idea that everything kind of influences each other, domino effect, if that makes sense. And Ken, last question from my end. I think a lot of founders and high-level leaders struggle with this concept of relinquishing control. How do you maintain kind of quality control and high standards within the organization and the business while also still stepping away from the day-to-day management execution?
So long time ago, I heard something that maybe you've heard of. It's called trust but verify. And it just basically means that, look, we all need scoreboards. We all need to kind of know. I love my scoreboards, not just for our people, but for myself, right? Where do I stand? I'm big on metrics. And I think that's really what we need is like, look, I'm going to hand this off to you. I know you're going to do great. That's why I'm handing it off to you. How do you think we should measure it? What's the definition of good? How are we going to measure it? Where are we going to get those measurements? How often are we going to check in on those measurements? And then just let that person know, okay, that's how I'm going to manage it. And come to me if you need anything. Come to me if we're off track. Come to me if you need some support in any way. But otherwise, the expectation is you're going to hit the numbers that we said you were going to do, right? And that's it. And I think once you have systems in place like that, it's really easy to manage things. I think one of the mistakes people make is they'll take something they were doing, they'll hand it off, and then they'll do a poor job in the management of it. And I'm specifically saying management because I'm not leading it anymore, right? I'm handing it to someone else. And now my job is to make sure we're managing that, make sure we're tracking that. And a lot of people do miss the ball there. And then what they say is, I can't delegate. Every time I do it, it screws up. I don't know if I'm hiring the wrong people. And I'm like, the truth is you could be hiring the right people, but not giving them the right guidelines in how to measure themselves. If people don't know where the scoreboard is or how to read it, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to follow it over time. But if expectations are extremely clear, here's what I want, any questions? And I don't mean that in a dictatorship type way. It's just, here's what I expect, but let's talk about it. Let's make sure you feel like you can deliver. But when we break from that huddle and you're like, no, I got it. I understand. I know how to get the number, what reports to be looking at, then we're good. Then that's it. And all I need to do is manage it. But again, a lot of people, they'll just throw the thing over the fence and then be disappointed when it doesn't work out right. And it's because they did a good job delegating, but they didn't do a good job.
Yeah, I really like that, especially the concept of these predetermined expectations and what everyone should be working towards as well.
Totally.
And then if someone listening wanted to improve this balance for themselves starting tomorrow or even starting today, where should they start?
The easiest thing in the world, as long as you're ready to be honest with yourself, is a couple of things. First of all, populate your calendar with everything that's happening, everything. And I know it's going to change all the time, but you should go into each week with a plan. Here's my plan for the week. Here's what I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And some of that's going to be out of your control, meetings, things like that. And then some of it's going to be in your control. And then that's when you can start going, ooh, I want to lean more into leadership activity, or ooh, I need a little more management time here and there. And so you go in with a plan, and then just like a sports team, sometimes your plan doesn't work, right? You're down 3-0 at halftime, and it's like you got to regroup. And regrouping is simply reworking the calendar a little bit. Oh, we had this customer call up. We had this problem. We had this employee resign. We had whatever might be going on. And so I get that the end of the day, end of the week is not going to look exactly like you planned it. That's just going to happen. That's life. But it's really interesting to go back and audit your time after the fact. So you set it up ahead of time, you change it as it's happening, and then you audit it after the day ends to go back and go, did I spend my time wisely? Did I need to do all the things that I was doing today? Or could they have been handed off? But you have to be radically honest to do that. And I frankly think a lot of people aren't ready to be radically honest because, again, our brains don't want to do the things that we don't want to do, even if it's going to get us to a much better position. But that's the way to do it. Audit your calendar, set up your calendar, audit your calendar, and rinse and repeat. Do it week after week.
Yeah, I completely agree, Ken. And the concept of that radical honesty, radical self-awareness, I think is key to that practice as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Ken. That's all I have from my end for this episode and for this conversation. I have tons more questions in store for the next and following conversations, but thank you so much for kind of shedding light on this concept.
You got it, Onika. Take care.
That's it for this episode of The Playbook by the Leaders Lab. Thanks for spending some time with us. We'd love it if you would subscribe, share the show, and leave a quick rating and review. Your feedback helps us grow, and it helps more leaders and founders join the conversation. If you'd like to talk more about hiring, scaling, or selling your business, please email me, ken@theleaderslab.co, or connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll be back soon with more strategies you can put to work today. I'm Ken Eslick with Onika Kwatsha. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week in The Playbook.